2024 might be coming to an end pretty soon, but it's always going to be remembered as the year of the crazy popcorn buckets. After Dune 2 gave us this just masterpiece that gave the movie a ton of free promotion, pretty much every major movie had to have its own special popcorn bucket. And today, we're going to rank every single popcorn bucket from 2024 on this, the official popcorn bucket tier list. And by the way, there's a lot of them, so if you could, like and subscribe, that'd be great. All right, for today's ranking, we are going to have kind of similar to the normal A, B, S tier kind of thing that you're probably used to with tier lists, but we have a couple little differences here. So our top tier is going to be one bucket to rule them all because there's really only one that deserves to be on the tippy top. It's the one that started everything. You probably know what it is, but either way, that's going to be number one. And all the way at the bottom is going to be more effort, please. Look, some of these buckets are very creative, and you can really tell which ones are not. So that being said, let's dive right in. And first up off the bat, we have Mean Girls. This movie was actually re-released, but they did give two buckets with it early in the year. So the first one that we have is one that's just a normal metal bucket, just has Mean Girls on the outside. This is a more effort please kind of bucket. The other one though is the actual burn book from the movie. Opens up, popcorn goes inside. Very, very cool. This one is going to be A. It's not quite S tier, but I do like it a lot. And from there we go into another girl power movie, Madam Web. Unfortunately, that movie wasn't very good, and neither is the bucket. I think both need more effort, please. All we see is the name on there, Madam Web, and I think it has Dakota Johnson on the other side, but still. Come on, guys. We can do better. And that gives us the one, the only Dune popcorn bucket. Now, it's also known by some other names, which I'm not going to repeat here. If you want to go figure that out, Google it. You will find it almost immediately, but it is the most ridiculous bucket ever. It is fantastic. People are going to be remembering this in a couple years from now. It is the only one worthy to be in one bucket to rule them all. This thing started all of this, and because of this, we're going to be having crazy buckets for years to come. Now, right after Dune, we got Kung Fu Panda. We have two different buckets here for that movie. One is like a Chinese takeout. The other one is just Po holding a bucket that's like his tummy. The Chinese takeout one is pretty cool. I'm going to put that in A tier as well. It's not really blowing me away, but it's kind of neat. And then for Po, I don't know. It's just him hanging on the edge of a bucket. I feel like it's not that creative. It's going to be a B tier one. Moving into Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, we have actually 6 different buckets for this one. Had a lot of promotion. It was really one of the first big blockbusters aside from Dune for the year. And the first one we got is actually the Ecto 1. The top lifts up, popcorn goes inside. It's an item from the movie. It looks great on a shelf. This is an S tier bucket. This is how you do this kind of thing. And we also got Slimer, translucent green. It's eating out of the bucket. It's going to be right up there with it as well. Now we have Stay Puft here. It's kind of got the same thing going on as Po. I think being the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, you could do a little bit more with it. Like maybe you could like eat out of its tummy or something. I don't know, but it's definitely not S or A. It's definitely a B tier. And it's kind of fitting. These are almost identical designs, so makes sense. They also did just a Frozen normal bucket. It's not quite more effort, please, because it does have some nice graphics on there and it looks nice. The inside is blue. I'm going to give it the lowest of the B's possible because it's not awful. It's just not very good. And rounding out the Ghostbusters ones, we have the Ghost Trap. Kind of like the other ones, looks great on a shelf. Kind of a cool collectible in and of itself. This one's going to be S tier. And it's going to be probably below Slimer. I love Slimer more than the other two. So it's going to be at the top of the S tier. And then we have the Ghostbusters Firehouse. Kind of like a metal lunchbox. I don't know, it's cool, it just doesn't quite have the same pop as the S tier ones, and I don't think it's B, so it's going to be an A tier. It's probably going to be ahead of the takeout bucket, but I still like the burn book a little bit more. Hopping over to Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, I think that's the name, it's a really long title, so who knows. The first one we have is just an orange and blue kind of normal bucket. This is kind of in the same Ghostbusters thing for me, where it's not more effort please, but there's not a lot of effort here, so it's going to be a B. Then they just did a normal bucket that has just the basic features on the outside. This is going to be a more effort, please. I mean, come on. We can do a lot more with this. And I know we can do a lot more with this because of the next couple here. So we have one that's Godzilla. The back opens up. Popcorn goes inside. It looks pretty darn cool, I gotta say. I don't think it's S tier because of the other two on here. It's definitely A tier. But way, way above the burn book. It just looks awesome. It's got the water around it. Mwah, gorgeous. And S tier, these two are actually the same bucket. I don't know why we have two photos of them, but they are King Kong and Godzilla in like these tanks. The popcorn goes inside. These look awesome. They kind of look like storage tanks for the Mutos, I think they're called. And these are definitely going to be, I think, I'm going to say above Slimer. I think these look really, really awesome. So for If, the Imaginary Friend movie, we only had a normal bucket, which is absolutely more effort, please. And then we got the purple guy from the movie. I don't know. It's fine. Like, most of the character ones, I feel like, are worthy of A tier because they do look pretty cool. But this kind of is giving me just, like, the Poe and kind of the, you know, Stay Puft vibes. Just because it's pretty simple. I don't think anybody really is going to remember much from the movie anyways. So it's going to be a B tier for me. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This is actually a normal bucket, but the top is the window from the very first movie, like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I mean, that's a real deep cut. I gotta be honest. Like, I don't know who's gonna remember that from all the way back then. They've made allusions to it throughout the movies, but if I just got that and I didn't know, you know, if I didn't do this kind of stuff and follow pop culture, I would have no idea what that is. But I do like the effort, and I think it's a little more creative than kind of the B level. So it's gonna be A, but, you know, I think it'll end up being somewhere around here. But for right now, A tier, feels good. Furiosa, all they did was a bucket. A basic bucket, square, but it has just the graphics on the side, nothing special. More effort, please. I don't know. It's better than these because I like the movie better. Alright, our favorite orange fat cat, Garfield. We have a couple that are the same. We have one that's Garfield as a baby, but it's the whole body, and then one that's just the head. This whole body one is really darn cute. So that's going to be in the S. For just the head, I don't know, like, I don't really think of dismembered cats when I'm eating popcorn. I think it's going to be all the way down in B, only because of how similar it is to these two. So it's going to be down here, and then Garfield, just chilling with a bucket, eating popcorn, that is A tier. It is very, you know, bucket forward, but it looks great, kind of like the Slimer thing. I think this is going to be fantastic here. And then we just have a normal bucket. Obviously, it's going to be more effort, please, because we know what they're capable of. Moving on to Inside Out 2. So right off the bat, we have Anger. It's just his head, but I think I read somewhere it lights up, so we're going to go ahead and put that in A. You know, somewhere in this range. And then we have the thought balls, and the popcorn goes inside. I think there was one for each character, so like 5. That's pretty cool. I think that's going to be... Is it A or S? I think it's going to be down in A just because there's something better that's going to go in S, which we'll talk about in just a second. More effort, please, for the normal buckets. They did do 2 of them, but so I guess that ranks it a little higher than some of the other ones, but still not very good. And then they did a clear tank, which I guess is supposed to be like the office they're all in. That's going to definitely be S tier. It looks pretty cool. It kind of has similar vibes to the Godzilla Kong thing. Looks really cool. Yeah, they earned a higher spot. A Quiet Place, year 1 or day 1, whatever that one was. Cool film, but the bucket was basic as heck. That's going to be more effort, please. And we go into Despicable Me 4. I didn't see the movie, so I have no idea why this guy is looking like the Thing. He's really rocky. He feels kind of A tier to me, kind of similar to the Firehead guy. But then they had a baby backpack carrier that has all the popcorn inside, and I guess you could actually wear it. I don't know what that has to do with the movie. I didn't see it, but something about this is just ridiculous enough to work for me. It's kind of goofy, but I'm kind of getting low S tier vibes for it. I think that's really, really neat. There was a basic bucket. We know how we feel about those. Then there was like a metal lunchbox kind of thing that opens up. It's like a bus for the anti-villain league. If you guys know what that is, let me know down below. It's literally the same style of thing that's in the A tier with the Ghostbusters and the Burn book. So I think that's a good place for it. We have one of these guys who has like a force multiplier for his face. I don't know what to do with this thing. It's kind of in the same vein as this for me. I guess I like it a little more than the bus. So he's probably up there with the, you know, Thing minion. And then we have this one where it looks like he's coming out of like some kind of cryopod. I don't even know how the popcorn goes in there. This is like over-engineered for me. I can't even... There's just too many. There's too many buckets for this movie. These two do the job really well. I have no idea what that's supposed to be. So because of that, it's going to be in B. Twisters was a fun time at the movie, but they did a basic bucket, kind of like Quiet Place, so we know where that goes. And that takes us to Deadpool and Wolverine. probably the movie that has the most memorable buckets beyond kind of the Dune bucket because of how many they had and how much they featured them. So we're going to jump around a little bit. I'm going to start with the Gaping Mouth Wolverine one. The promotions for this, they had the dripping butter coming down. They make this thing an S tier bucket. Everybody knew what they were going into. It's ridiculous. Looks fantastic. Definitely worthy of being in that tier. Headpool is also... I'm going to put Headpool in the S tier also. It's a really deep cut. I think comic nerds really excited about that one because it's very cool. But the other buckets are kind of going to be a bit lower. We have the basic Deadpool and Wolverine. They look good. They're not crazy. They're both A tier. I mean, they look fantastic for what they are, and I think a lot of people would be happy to have them if they didn't get one of the two up top. The baby Deadpool one, he wasn't featured in the movie enough for me. I didn't really dig it all that much, and it kind of looks really goofy. This is kind of has the same problem as the Minion one. I just don't... It's worse than all the other offerings, so it gets knocked down, which is maybe not fair to it, but hey, my list. And that last one gives us a bucket with just 2 figures on the side. I mean, it's just a bucket with action figures on it. More effort, please, because it is definitely worse than Baby Deadpool, and clearly worse than everything else here. So just, you know, poop rolls downhill. Sorry, guys. All right, moving on to Borderlands. That gave us 2 different buckets. One is Claptrap the Robot. I don't know. It looks pretty good, even though it's a little on the basic side. I think it's probably going to be an A tier bucket. I think it's pretty cool. They also made one that is Dynamite, like a Dynamite box. And I really enjoyed this one because I think most people wanted to blow up that movie because it was so bad. But I would put that... It's definitely A tier because it's on the same level as Claptrap, but like... I think the kind of the double entendre, like people wanting to nuke the movie, it might be up here with Godzilla for me. And I'm going to tidy this up a little bit too. The Deadpool and Wolverines are beyond the burn bucket. They're way better than that. And then this is probably about here. Now, you might not know what this next bucket is because I didn't even know, and you wouldn't tell by looking at it. It's from the re-release of Coraline in 3D, and all it has is some mice on the bucket. This is one of the laziest things I have seen yet on this list. It is at the absolute bottom of More Effort Please because they did not even try. But I'm happy to follow that up with some very creative buckets for Alien Romulus. We did get 2 different ones that are the Xenomorph head. So the one that's just the Xenomorph head by itself, that's going to be an A tier one because there's one with a neck that can actually stand up by itself. It almost kind of feels like when you set it down, like a big trophy hunter kind of thing, because it's so big, it's so interesting. That's going to be an S tier one. They also have a glowing tank with one of the facehuggers on the side. That's also going to be S tier, but higher, I think, than quite a few of these. This is going up with the Godzilla ones because they're so darn cool. There's also just a Xenomorph or a facehugger climbing on the side of the bucket. It's fine. It's just not as good as the others, so it's going to be down here with Baby Pool. It's okay. It's cool. Like, I wish you could take it off and, like, use it as a toy or something, but it's fine for what it is. I wouldn't be upset if I got that, but I would be upset if I saw the other ones and then I had that. The next summer blockbuster was Beetlejuice, and of course, it gave us some buckets. So right off the bat, we have one of the shrunken head dudes in just a square box. They went together. I think one was a drink offering or something like that. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of like low A tier, mainly because of how cool that character was in the movie. He's pulling at my heartstrings. It works for me. We also have a sandworm bucket. This is going to be another A tier one. Good use of the character, looks really cool. Doesn't feature Beetlejuice though, so I don't know if somebody would get that right off the bat. They did make a handbook for the recently deceased bucket. This sucker is going to be an S tier. It is not nearly as flashy as any of these. It's way more simple, but man, just being that cool of a deep cut, having it look that great, and then something you could use down the road for like cosplay, perfect. And then there's the Beetlejuice Grave one, which it looks fantastic, which is why I'm so sad it has to go in B. Because nobody, like, I don't get Beetlejuice from this. Even though we see his grave in the movie, nothing about this screams the Beetlejuice movie. Like, even if you didn't know who the sandworms were, you look at that bucket and you'll know that, yeah, that's probably Beetlejuice because you have the white and black. It looks that Tim Burton vibe. This just doesn't have it, so it's going to be down in B. Now, Transformers 1 gave us 5 different buckets, and there is actually a 6th one. We'll talk about that in a second. So more effort, please, because they made a normal one. Again, just basic like all the other ones. We can do better, guys. And then they made two that are kind of more accurate to like the movie, and then two that are kind of designed from like the old Transformers, like a little more detailed, looking a little more serious. I kind of don't really know how to rank these, I'll be honest, because they're all so darn similar. I think all four of these are just A tier. They all look great. They're not doing anything wrong. They all look cool. I'd be happy to have them on a shelf because they look awesome, but some are just a little bit better. The light up ones are probably going to go quite a bit higher. And then kind of the normal two, we're just going to be down here. But there is a sixth one, and it never got released. It was actually a transforming popcorn bucket in the shape of Optimus Prime. It got revealed early, like it was spoiled, and then for whatever reason, it never got released to any movie theater. So I don't know what happened to this, but this is going to be kind of shocking. They couldn't even have enough effort to get it released, so it's going to go in more effort, please. Even though it is by far the coolest one on that entire list. It's actually going to go to the tippy top of more effort, please. Coraline to the bottom. I don't know why they wouldn't release this. People would shell out dollars for this, and they just didn't bother to put it out. Wild Robot is our next offering here. They really only did in the US the basic buckets, so that's going to have to be a more effort, please one. Somewhere in South America, they did one in the shape of the robots from the actual movie. It's nice. It's kind of basic. Only because it didn't get released here. I'm going to lower it down a little bit. It feels kind of like Garfield-y to me. So we'll go ahead and put it right about there in B tier. Now, Joker Folie à Deux came out earlier in the year, and that gave us actually only one bucket, but there was a second Batman one, which we'll talk about in a second. So for this one, they gave us just a purple box, and it's the Joker's hand holding a card. Has nothing to do with the movie, was just a tie-in because we barely even see the Joker in his full outfit much in the film, and when he is, he's not really doing all that much. But I don't hate it. There's a lot of creativity here, even though they missed horrendously. I think it's going to be very low A tier, right below Beetlejuice, because these are basically the same concept. But we did get for the re-release of the Batman a bat signal popcorn bucket that actually lights up and works as a bat signal. This sucker is S tier. It is above the Ecto one. This thing is so cool. It might be beyond... I think it's past Slimer, because these all light up, you know, they all have their kind of cool thing going on. I mean, Bat Signal, it's one of the most iconic things about Batman. It's been around forever, so I love the fact that we have this. Joker also had kind of a normal bucket, you know, one of the ones with just the graphics on it, nothing fancy, so that's going to be here. Definitely above Coraline, below everything else. Then for Halloween, we got a bunch of different horror buckets. We had Terrifier. Terrifier 3 came out. It's just Art the Clown's head, but it is as Santa. I like this one. I think it's better than B. It's definitely an A tier one. You know, somewhere near maybe the lower Transformers buckets. I think that's a good place for it. It's just a head. Looks very creepy. I don't know if I'd want to display it, so I think that's kind of a good place for it. But then they also gave us Pennywise and Chucky buckets, which is kind of odd because there were no movies for either one of them this year. But they were just there because they look neat, and I guess they thought it was a cash grab. The Pennywise one looks pretty sick. I think it's going to be low S tier, and then Chucky is probably going to be higher A tier. Probably below the Deadpool Wolverine ones, just because it looks pretty sick, and I think horror fans would be really happy to have that. There was a basic bucket for Smile 2, more effort please. And that takes us to Venom The Last Dance, where we got 3 different buckets. We have just the head of Venom, Eddie Brock. So that's going to be an A tier one. I think he's going to be happy to hang with his Marvel bros right there. Then they have another one that's just Venom's head on a black bucket. Pretty hideous looking. It's not really fancy. It's actually below these two, but it's kind of the same idea. But then we have the one that is Venom's head open with, you know, a neck. It's kind of like a bust. This thing looks incredible. I don't care if it doesn't light up. I don't care if it's, you know, not functionally as cool as some of these. This is probably going to go right below the Ecto 1 and the Ghost Trap. I think I'm going to move up the Deadpool and Wolverine ones to right below that. All right, for our holiday movies, we actually got Red 1, the movie with J.K. Simmons, Chris Evans, and The Rock. So the one we got is a snow globe, which is kind of a cool use of that. I think it's going to be actually S tier. I don't think it's as high as any of the other ones by any means, but it is very cool. It's very similar to the Inside Out one, and it's very thematic. It looks pretty cool. It can't hold a lot of popcorn though, which is a bit of a strike, but I like it. They also did the sleigh from Red One, which looks really cool, but it also looks kind of cheap, like it looks 3D printed almost. I like it a lot. I think it's going to be, though, down here, kind of next to the Borderlands box. I'm going to put it here above the Transformers and all the other guys, but below the Xenomorph, the Burn Book, and then the cool heads. For Gladiator 2, we got a Coliseum, full Coliseum. It's weathered, that kind of popcorn bucket. I love it. It can hold a ton of popcorn. Looks really, really cool, and I think this would look awesome in, like, even more of a refined collection. You know, if we were to walk into, like, a professor's library, I could see this being on the shelf. Kind of a cheaper alternative to getting, like, a nice metal one or something. So I think this is going to go probably right above Garfield. They also made a Gladiator helmet, which I think goes right below the Coliseum. It is pretty fantastic looking. You can't wear it, obviously, which is kind of a downer, but it's gorgeous. And they also made a vertical Coliseum bucket. It looks a little bit like a trash can to me. You're competing with this other Coliseum, which is just so much better. But it does kind of still go in A tier, I think. It definitely shows creativity, so it's not more effort, please, or even a B. If you just look at the Bs that we have, I think it's much better than that. But we're going to go ahead and put that probably somewhere near the Beetlejuice bucket. I do like that snake. Sorry, sandworm. And even though it's not S tier, I think that's a good spot for it. And it's fitting that we bookend a movie about, you know, gladiatorial combat with a nice Disney movie like Moana. Moana used a lot of blue plastic to get wave effects, which are gorgeous. So let's get some of the bad ones out of the way. They had a basic bucket, more effort please. But then they did this sort of pendant thing that it opens up and it's kind of like an Easter egg with how it holds the popcorn. Real basic. I really don't like it very much. It's going to get a B. But it's okay, because Moana had these two, which are incredible. So first off, there's one where she's like summoning a wave. I mean, this is just S tier if I've ever seen one. This thing is gorgeous. A lot of detail to it. It just looks fantastic. You can see the popcorn inside. This is going to be right up there with Gladiator for me. And they also did one that's just a bucket with a wave coming up. It feels A tier because it's not as complex as some of the stuff we have in A tier, but it kind of is giving me Coliseum vibes because it's so simply executed, but it looks so gorgeous and really captures kind of the idea from the movie. So I'm going to put it in S tier right along the other one. Now we have some Wicked buckets, but they are not popular, unlike the song in the movie. We have some lantern ones that light up, but they don't have the same kind of pop as the, you know, Godzilla ones or the Xenomorph ones. I'm going to go ahead and toss them in A. We can put them above the Transformers. I think they look okay, but they're not amazing. Then we have just some basic buckets. We know where those go. And for War of the Rohirrim, the new Lord of the Rings animated movie, we have two different buckets that are probably some of the boldest choices I've seen. One is a full-size Warhammer with an actual handle. The top opens up and the popcorn goes inside from the end that you would be hitting somebody with. I like it a lot. I think it's really creative. I don't know if you'd be like poking people next to you when you're trying to eat your popcorn, so that might be a touch of a demerit, but it's definitely going in S tier. Then they also made a bucket that is chainmail on the outside and a shield on top. It is still a pretty basic bucket, but I definitely think it can go in A tier. And because of the level of detail and the fact you get a shield, I'm going to put it above the Borderlands box, right below Godzilla, because I think it looks amazing. We also got 3 buckets for Mufasa, not out yet, but it's going to be coming this month in December. One is a giant Pride Rock. It's pretty big and complicated. I don't know, it doesn't feel as cool as some of the ones in S tier, so we're probably going to go reasonably high A. We'll put it right there. I think that's pretty good. Below Chucky, above the Burn Book. We also have 2 different kind of normal buckets. They both have just a ton of detail. One lights up from the inside. The other one has a lot of etchings on the outside, like a cave drawing or something. They're both going to be A tier. I don't think they're quite S tier. I think the one that's just the normal bucket with a lot of etchings is going to be A tier, but high A tier because there's a lot of detail. It's going to go below the War of the Rohirrim bucket. But then the other one actually lights up from the inside and kind of looks like a fiery cave kind of painting thing. So that has to go S tier just because of how much effort they put in. Moving on to our last 2 movies, we have Sonic the Hedgehog 3, We have one that's just his head. That's going to be A tier. This is nothing really new at this point. And then we have Sonic holding the bucket. I think this is S tier. It's basically the exact same thing as Garfield, but it works really well. So we'll put it right below Garfield, because so Garfield can hang out with the kittens. And they had a normal bucket too. We know how we feel about normal buckets here. And lastly, for Nosferatu, the horror movie coming out this month. Nothing says happy holidays like vampires eating people. But we have a full coffin, opens up, looks really cool. I instinctively want to throw it in A tier to kind of go with the book and the Ghostbusters tower. But dang it, it just looks so darn cool. It's going to go into S tier. And I think I'm going to put it right below the Gladiator helmets. I think that is a fantastic spot for it. And that is the official ranking of every 2024 popcorn bucket released this year. And expect this trend to continue, because those studios are not going to say no to some juicy free promotion. And as always, you're welcome to disagree with any of my rankings, but hey, this is just how I feel about these. So, do you agree with my choices? Let me know down below. And while you're down there, let me know what you want me to rank next. And of course, like the video and subscribe to the channel, because that kind of stuff really helps us out. But until next time, have a happy, epic, awesome, and amazing day, and I will see you around.